when the one wants to know what the superconductivity is for its phenomenon and why it happens, currently known is when the certain material, what is the essence of that material, and on what material compared to the other material, on other materials, it is not applied. So, what makes that specific material special for the superconductivity be possible? And its temperature going to bloody down, and what the temperature makes an effect on the items of metal. The temperature's variation when before reaching the threshold that makes the superconductivity, it doesn't change a lot, but when it pushes through the threshold, it changes for its conductivity to be having no resistance of on the electron, and it flows, meaning there is no loss because there is no resistance. Okay, as soon as and as long as the electron is made an input, it has no resistance and it flows until otherwise other forces are inflicted upon it. So number one, what material, specific material has what material? Okay, let's say iron. When the iron has a superconductivity, what makes it so special compared to the other material when it is going to the freezing temperature down and making the temperature example 200 minus 200 Celsius is the threshold, but minus 1900 190 and 195 198, it doesn't make a big gap, big difference on its conductivity until it goes thresholds down, which means that level is a threshold which makes a certain behavior of or a certain state of atom to do something different. It is a switching point. Okay, having no electricity resistance. So, having a superconductivity, having no resistance on the electricity, just it constantly flows, other than having that metal's temperature going freezing threshold down, what other methods can, in its materials property, can make that material to be also superconducted? When down freezing the temperature is the only way that can certain material be made be having superconductivity, when it is the one and only method to make something material to be having a superconductivity. What is the essence of freezing down? Freezing down, what is changed by freezing down? What is changed when it's freezing down? Having a threshold like, for example, minus 230 degree is a threshold. When minus 200, 210, 220 degree, 225 and 28 Celsius, it doesn't make a big difference, but when it goes down to the threshold, pushes up 230, it changes a lot of things, make a big difference. What is the difference? Now, freeze it and have electric current and watch it. Freeze it like 230 is the threshold. Freeze it to 200. Freeze it to 210. Freeze it to 214. Freezy 2, 221. Freezy 2, 228. Freezy 2, 229. And then make electricity and watch it on its atomic structure. And when it goes 330, oh, what changes? And watch it when the electricity is going on. And when it says it has a threshold not only in its freezing temperature, but also in reverse, when the temperature is going up, superconductivity is not applied, and and that material has a threshold on the density of electricity for how much at any given time electricity can be conducted upon the material. It has a threshold like 10D, being a density 10D of electricity makes possible, but 15D, oh, it is not possible. 14D, still possible. 15D, not possible. Well, having materials can be not only one count, but it is about the question of the essence of material for its atomic structure, not its name, for what structure makes the superconductivity possible. So, let's say there are 20 materials that are possible when those temperatures are going down, being threshold and having a superconductivity whose item's property and its structure is different, and having a different threshold on its superconductivity threshold, meaning different items, different structure of it, and the different combination of item and structure makes the threshold of temperature different. Having a iron atoms and a structure of lead, or having a gold atoms and structure of helix. Atom and its structure is different, and the threshold for its temperature for making superconductivity is also different. So it is about, first, what atoms, 2, structure, 3. What does the change of temperature makes those structure property different in terms of the electricity? Have to stimulate upon that same material, not only about freezing down the temperatures, also on its material's property, what can be changed by the forces inflicted upon that to change its behavior on the same property. Of course, highly possible that only changing the temperature of a metal is the only possible way for bringing the resistance of electricity down to zero. What are the other methods? Or when having a state of superconductivity, not only having electricity inflicted upon, but what methods can be made to explore the property of frozen, literally down freezing material, having a magnetic field, having a light upon it, different electromagnetic waves. So, on the question of having superconductivity, is the no. not only inflicting the freezing temperature upon it, also have an experiment around the material to either change the property or remaining the property the same but having a different function on the upon the force inflicted it. Of course, same applied with the electricity. When the electricity is made upon that, having a conductivity, you make an experiment about its resistance. What change of its property can change the resistance of it, either it being a resistance of electricity or magnetic field or having a temperature. It is about dividing down the into the smaller constituents and make a combination on it. Would there be other ways to make a state of superconductivity than just lowering the temperature? Or when the temperature is freezing is same, but other than having electricity upon it, with what other forces can the computer determine it can explore the genuine property of that freezing metal, okay, and have to explore other materials that can be having a superconductivity and analyze its atoms and its structure and watch it with a fucking microscope for its atomic structure when it is freezing down, how its structure changes and inflicting the electricity on the metal material before the threshold and after the threshold and exact the threshold or far less on the threshold, far higher on the threshold. Material has a threshold not only on its temperature. When it rises on the threshold, it loses its property of conductivity, also having a variation upon the magnetic field, and it has a limitation on the density of electricity. At any given moment, it has a limitation on the traffic that can make the electricity flowing upon it be superconducted. Okay, it has a limitation on it. So when the 10 amount of densities upon it made upon it, it makes a good superconductivity, and the threshold having an experiment is 15D. So until 14D and 14.4D, 14.8D, it has a good superconductivity, and it changes for having less potency. And when it goes like over, let's say 15 plus 25D of density, it loses the superconductivity. We have to watch in live. We have to watch when the electricity is constantly inflicting upon, and when its density changes, the material loses its property for superconducted. Oh yeah. So the logic analysis is always about dividing the information down into the smaller parts of constituent and just make a combination on it. Constituent and combination to create. So having certain variations or a gap where it can be applicable and outside of which not applicable. So as to know why it happens, why do they have a threshold, we have to because it's a property changes upon the variable. So when the variable E is inflected upon by having different steps, and watch it on the material, and what the and we can see by what reason does it change when the threshold is under, when the uh, criteria being a electricity or temperature criteria is under the threshold, it operates well. But closer to the threshold, oh, it is something unstable. And on the threshold, it doesn't. So we have to watch the structure in live when those forces are in operation upon the material. It is just a property of material. Material. So, make a lot of uh, inflicting forces upon the material to know the property, not only having simply making the temperature down of it. What different conditions of material can make it superconductive, make it superconducted. Also, making a superconductivity is just a tiny example of materials properties. Superconductivity, yeah, it's just a tiny example, tiny portion of entire materials potency. So it is just not in an objective, but as just a case of it. What by what methods can the one know the real property of material? Fucking make an experiment on it. Because when the one does not know the atomic structure property, but only does know on its superficial, but not know in its essence, we have to know on the experiment through the experiences, make it and know it. When the one doesn't have any relatable information, applicable information to have a reasonable prediction on how will it behave, just do it, because we do not know. So, making more experiments, making more dots, making more connections on it, the network is more easily analyzed. More informations, more answers. It also says in later passage that since electricity and magnetic for being combined, electromagnetic, reason of why we do call as a single uh, name, as those are compounded word. It is just a different formation, different expression of a same attribute. So when so the electromagnetic field has a relationship on the density of electricity. When the metal is conducted with the electricity, it forms a magnetic field around it. And it says when the threshold of temperature of superconductor is low, the threshold of the density of electricity goes up. So does the magnetic field. And when the temperature's threshold is up, not down, it can make more flows of electricity. Cannot understand the relations of those. Well, it is about always a question of the basic principle, the basic attribute, the study about the basic force. The interactions by connecting those basic dots are made as an example and application which can be solved from understanding accurately on the basic forces, the basic elements of science. What is the essence on the relation? And the another attribute is the reaction of superconductor upon the external magnetic field. When the magnetic field is inflicted upon the superconductor, it cannot penetrate, only penetrates slightest, shallowest depth on the superconductor. And why? We really have to watch in live, okay? As the astronomers, cosmologists can advance their study by having a bloody telescope. On this series, you go with the microscope. So we have to do that. Here is about the essence on the what is the essence of magnetic field, which can only be known from experimenting with a lot of interactions from and to different materials for that magnetic field to know its essence on how it reacts. When the temperature's threshold is low, the electricity's density goes up for its threshold, so the threshold of magnetic field and the temperature's threshold goes up, so the electricity can flow more. We have to know its cause. Why these relationship is made? On the questions, all the examples and phenomena can be analyzed, exactly known by knowing the basic essential concept. Now science, the logic, mathematics, all science disciplines, engineering and technology is just number one, understand the basic principle, the core element, and connect and apply it to control. It is just this process. Now, for seeing this, for items, different items, and isotopes, same count of protons, but different count of neutrons, and the clouds of orbiting what the fucking electrons around the atom, and having a structure of lattice, and what the fucking temperature makes the difference. It is about the structure of logic. When there is another kind of universe governed by the different element called not item, having different property on its very essence, which cannot be easily changed, is governing, the scientists go always to explore it. Even had the law had the basic elements of universe that are consisting of all those environments being different, the scientists would always just adapt it and do it, okay? Now, after understanding all the basic elements, real property, real essences, and making its interactions between materials totally understood, after understanding what elements are in existence and what processes do they produce on those interactions of connecting dots, the computer makes another phase, which is controlling create the new combinations that haven't been made, like creating new stars, creating new organisms, creating new animals, creating um, new materials. Okay, okay, and control them. When there is another kind of universe governed by different elements and laws, so will the scientist by adapting it to do that. It is just understanding. Yeah. And as for the one to create, in order for any computer to create anything to everything, it has to utilize some informations like materials to create. Uh, it has to know the basic constituents for the very essence of elements. To make structure, it has to know the constituents of the structure. To make a system, any organization, it has to know the basic elements that make up the network. Like when there is another planet having different animals that are operated under totally different system with the primarily composed of items, materials are totally different from us. And the capabilities that those boys can handle is very enormous. The scientists of that planet would have a research on that object. So what the pure natural science really is named natural science. In German voice, Natur, Wissenschaft, Wissen, and Schaft, about the nature. Nature, meaning the examples of simulations, from seeing the superficial examples of nature, for it be a nature of element, earth, for it be the nature of space, and any other element, planets, stars. It's just an example. And for that example, you deep down delve on it, going deep, analyze down into it, and make the basic, make the genuine understanding on its basic elements, and make a new creation out of it. So you're making your own universe, you're making your own planet, own set, own animal, own organism, own star. Oh. If the basic constituents of material was different, or for the superficial parts in biology was very different from that of us, the scientists that are living on that specific, any particular planet, each of which having different mechanisms of chemical that make up the machine, those scientists would always start from that different samples, examples, from having different ones. It does know eventually what the real mechanism of those interactions of chemicals, molecules, and its bigger macrostructures would be, and make a new one. And as those sciences evolve, those creations are advanced. When two different boys originated two different and distant planets are in meeting, and assuming those different two boys are having a complete understanding on how to make a machine, those knowledges, even though having originated from different environment, would be the same. Okay, would be the same. Different code, different machine on what they have made, but on the understanding of core element would be the same. Even having different language, it doesn't necessarily make any difference on those identical, on those analysis for seeing the identical data set. Yeah, it doesn't have any hindrance for seeing, identifying that, oh, they are having the exact same knowledge. So it is just a logic for what constituent as a basic and down to the divide more, divide more, divide more, divide more. What is the basic and the basic and the basic of the basic of the basic element? So, from knowing that, the genuine creation for other different ramifications that the mother nature haven't have have not made, the space have not made. Okay. Now the engine, as we experience when the engine of a vehicle, just a truck or other commercial vehicles, are made of an internal combustion engine by the usage of petroleum. The petroleum is just a facilitator to make a fire, actually to make a combustion, actually to make a combustion that makes a thrust, which makes a revolvement, a movement of piston, whose piston movement is connected to a gear and have a wheel moving. Now, the petroleum is having no essence. It is used only as to make a thrust, as it being a fire or combustion or explosion, as those are same thing in the usage of petroleum for making a thrust. Its essence is to make a thrust. A thrust is converted as having a circular, okay? Thrust is one way, okay? Thrust is a one way, either left side, right side, or moving forward, backward is one way. But the piston from having up to the down, but in a revolution is circular way, which goes to a circular movement from the one direction, the way having a unidirectional way of combustion. It's thrust that has a unidirection going to circular by using a different structure. So having one-way directional thrust is converted to a circular revolving structure, and that is connected to the gear, so is the wheel, okay? It is essentially a thrust, and that thrust can be used in pushing the air, not having a thrust and pushing the ground and making a overcoming the friction and go upward in a highway, in any roads. But it can also be used because its essence is not rolling it down, but thrust. It can push away by making a combustion, by making a facilitation, okay? So that is used in airplane. However, the fucking fancy airplane human is now using it just a bloody fucking petroleum. Now, however complex or advanced the engine would be, but only if using petroleum, the same energy, only if using a revolving mechanism on a vehicle, it, number one, makes a lot of noise because it really booms. It really have a bomb. It really making a combustion explosion and thrusting in the engine, making a lot of noise. Drum, drum. This is why you hear this lousy, noisy sounds from the vehicle, and it makes also a stumbling, trembling, shivering, and shivering, quivering, stumbling, trembling movement on the vehicle because, as I said, the piston moves, and because you say V8, V12, V20, V30, V100 engines, it's just a count of a cylinder. Needless to study, it's just what would What would that mean? It's just a count of cylinder in which the piston 1 to 1 exists, having a V12, V20 cylinder, each of which having 12 to 20 cylinders, meaning all of the pistons are moving simultaneously. Even though using a lot of fuel, it can accelerate fast because simultaneously it goes by the juxtapositional position, it goes simultaneously thrust, meaning the revolution per minute goes accelerated simultaneously operates. So it's just an inefficient. Only to accelerate, it has to a lot of cylinders, but having a lot of weight upon the vehicle, which also is needed to make more weight, and the center of weight going down and more center of the vehicle as to when the one accelerates any faster, it has to make a friction attached onto the road. Weight bigger, but on the lower height and the center of the vehicle. So, of course, the V12, V20, V30, those engines are just used. However, it is just it is not a high tech, it is low tech because it was made 100 years ago and before. So, it is V12, V20, no, having no meaning. Reason of why those cylinders are intersected by having when one's first cylinder goes left to right direction, as the you imagine the circular movement of its Earth's rotation being from left to right, and the second being right to left, and the per by one, each of each, it goes differently, different from previous one, different from the previous one, different from the previous one. It's because, what do you say? It's because it makes the movement of piston from left to right, either right to left, it makes a movement, it makes a thrust and going, revolving, rotating down to the up again. It makes a movement which makes a direct trembling of a vehicle. A V12 with all those 12 cylinders, pistons are going simultaneously in the unit direction from left to right. So does the fucking vehicle go stumbling left to right, and not going to have a stable movement of its operation of running left to right, left to right. The wheel is compressed when it goes left, and going right wheel is compressed when it goes right, and the attachment equal attachment on the road of the tire cannot be made if it goes unidirectional. So it makes a equilibrium by having different sequences on each of those different cylinders. But it makes it itself, even having one cylinder in existence, it makes a trembling of a vehicle. Reason of why it makes it trembling, okay, when the one rides a car in a silence but running, it trembles the vehicle because there is a thrusting combustion explosion. So the key is to make the piston more stable, meaning when V8 engine, 4 going left, 4 going right, and is placed right, front or back side, and that engine front or back side Well, so-called supercars can make a lot of acceleration because number one, it uses a lot of fuel. Number two, it uses a lot of cylinder, can accelerate fast. And also, a lot of fuel and cylinder means a lot of weight. And supercar has no more than 2 seats, meaning all those spaces that can be used as seats are removed as to have a space for the engine. Bigger engine is placed on the center of the vehicle, lowering down the center of weight, and the average height of a supercar is very low compared to the commercial car. Even compared to the truck, it is very low. Okay, why? Lower the center of gravity because it accelerates faster. Its friction has to maintain on the road as to go, not a meaningless rotation, but go, friction, attach, and accelerate. Higher fuel, more cylinder, meaning more weight that is not on the neither front or back side as to pendulate, as to having a preponderancy, but in the only center, and lower, by using that weight to make a stable friction across the four wheels to be having an equilibrium, and lowering that elevation, making more movement be more stable. Reason of why supercars, number one, use a lot of fuel. Number two, use a lot of cylinder, meaning a lot of weight. Number three, not 4 seats but 2 seats. Its center, there is no operator's seat. Its center is made by the engine. Okay, half the sports car, supercar, there is an engine. Number four, the average height is lower. Number five, average weight is higher. Both makes a lot of stability. Okay. Number six, the width. Okay, the width of wheel has to be more larger. Okay, as to make a lot of friction, more acceleration, more destability. As to make a stability, as same with less acceleration, it has to also widen the width of the wheel. Okay. Why the morphology, the shape of supercars look like? But supercar, unless it is just made of a battery and having a converter and having a coil and just magnetic field and making a wheel electricity upon it and make a wheel run. Just battery, converter, motor, gear, wheel. Only needs electric car only needs 5 components, which has no vibration on the vehicle. It is just as silent as nothing, because it just having no more than 5 major components compared to dozens and more triple dozens of other boys having less technology as petroleum car. And also its battery pack is very high weight, but it is placed under the center and the lowest part of the vehicle, having a lot of stability on its racing, and no piston. That is reason of why it has no vibration, no piston, no combustion, just having electricity convert its DC to AC and making a electricity down it, motorize and go it. So that piston has always been used because of the low technology, and it is not that much low tech, but it is of course about the quality of material, not using a petroleum. So As going to previous thesis, petroleum's usage in a piston car, making a trembling, rumbling, and why the piston's movement is in opposite per every different pistons, not making a preponderant, um, what do you call, lateralized, partialized movement, but as to stabilize, making a zero equalization of trembling, making some to be as much as zero, closer to zero. That is just a mechanic. No. Anatomy of the vehicle, and anatomy of the electricity vehicle. Another kind of vehicle made up of the nuclear fusion or fission. Okay, and but electricity cannot make a thrust on the air. It can make a motor, just a fan, as exactly it does on the wheel, having a fan, like a kite, like a Netherlands, what do you call the windmill? Okay, so but a petroleum can use because it has a thrust. When thrust, the anatomy of airplane is exactly same with the petroleum vehicle, petroleum car, rover. It's because vehicle makes a thrust exactly same, but it converts its thrusting unidirectional energy to the circular rotation, making a wheel moving. But airplane, it really is more simpler, having a thrust, unidirection, which is all thing that airplane needs to make a long journey. And number one, a lot of fuel. The fuel's density. Making artificial fuel, they can make a thrust and has a lot of density, like the petroleum to the nuclear fission, uranium fission. It is like 100,000 times more dense, okay? But not exactly the one-to-one density, but its efficiency, okay, compared to its volume, okay. Also the weight, okay, weight and volume, meaning the efficiency, meaning the density. Artificial fuel has to be massively produced, and the like byproducts like CO2 has to be recaptured and dissected. You have to control all of the environment when you make an interaction and make a result, make a cause and a result, make an interaction process, all of which has to be controlled from the start to the byproducts and results. Okay. So, airplane has to compress all of the air molecules, which is just a catalyzer to make a thrust. When the air pressure of an Earth was not, we say like 1,000 H Pascal, it's just a one, by having a Earth be a criterion center, because you live in the Earth, like 1 light year is a distance of light speed from starting the sun to the Earth. The Earth's criteria is 1 on the Luftdruck, air pressure. Okay, the air pressure is just a air density, air molecules density. And when having another plane, a planet, and another plane on the planet, and having exact same thrust, but on the other planet having more air pressure, okay, like 2-3 times, the airplane can easily operate and can go more faster because the air density is very high, meaning a lot of airs can be gathered and more compressed and more thrusting, okay? So on the Earth, going to a stratosphere, another sphere of 5 stages of different sphere of the Earth. As go up, the gravity's force for letting it into the core goes diminishes, and so does the density of the air molecule because it less is trapped by the gravity. Go going more and up, low density, and when a plane goes on the air like 10 kilometer from the sea level, or 20 kilometer from the sea level, 30 40 kilometer from the sea level, density goes less by going up, meaning airplane needs a lot of more compression power, okay, as to go more up, less density, but requires same or okay, just the same or same compression level. It needs a lot of compression level as to maintain its speed. So number one, the density of air molecule, since the one cannot complain, oh, this planet has a less density. No. Gather, compress, the compression capability is exceptionally important. The fuel is number one, of course, but the number two is not anything but the compression capability of air, the second catalyzer. Dense, okay? Densely gather, congregate, converge the air molecules and send it to the burning fuel and make a thrust, okay? And the turbofan engine, no, it doesn't have a entitlement qualification. No, any value to be called as engine because it is just a gathering air molecule and just having a thrusting by the usage of petroleum, which goes thrust, no more. And having a fan like your fan in your apartment, in your fan in your house, in your office, it's just a fan. Low tech, seemingly great, but not. So, number one, compress the air molecule. Number 0, make an artificial fuel that can burn out and make more thrust. It is all about the chemistry and material science. Make an artificial fuel that makes more efficiency. Ever imagine the aircraft carrier that has nuclear fission engine, although it is about also low tech because that heat, immense fission heat, is just converted to just boiling a fucking water, boiling a fucking one, and having a steam pressure to make a motor rotating. So on the aircraft carrier, nuclear fusion or fission make it. And how you think how the heat made from that immense energy, it is burning like a sun. It really is sun in a sense, okay? You are having a bloody sun on the, okay, either be fission or fusion. Fission not exactly, but you're having the heat, and how that heat can be converted into mobilizing a fan, mobilizing a movement can rotate. Rotate. It is your job. How can the heat can be used as rotating and as much as lower as the lower the loss. Petroleum used combustion piston but connecting to the gear and also the wheel, during which process its energy efficiency from its original capacity to the real rolling down is greatly diminished by the inter interference interception of a physical gears. On that time it is really is diminished. So really is diminished. Some core logics found in certain discipline can often, in average, be applied to other ones. Another discipline, the basic logic for dividing the information down into its finer and smaller units and pieces of constituents, and making application from those basic logic's core ideas a rudimental basis to the extension of from the connection of quality and quantity informations, making a logic maximum relevance to make new and novel applications is universally applied. As being that was originally that lesson was that logic was acquired originally from dissecting the word in English language. It was the first time that the word firefighter was constituted by fire and fighter be a fighter on the fire, was acquired in the age of 10 in the English Academy, but before had I been instructed with other compounded words before that at the age of 10 and having firefighter meeting for the first time for after living fucking 10 years of bloody life, I would have realized earlier than that. But it was the first time for me and to me for a certain word is and can be comprised of its constituents as always be on the compounded words, connected words. As I really realized the importance of it for studying the German language, having bloody 10 to 12 alphabet counts are consecutively chained to make words that often constitute from 2 to 4 different words into a single compounded word. As those words are generally used not in discrete pattern, also can in, but in compounded pattern, it is highly frequently used that it made just a single word compounded with 2, 3, 4 different words in just single term. And it has to be that fucking lesson, but meaningless lesson, either do you have or not, it has to be made by the logic with or without your knowledge on its existence, because when you do make without any civilization, without any language, without any code, without any knowledge, but one and only your existence is a sole presence as a learner and the entire universe of possibility as to build, organize the knowledge as the network is created from you. The code for that as an analyzation of information you do have in its exact delineated forms are imperative, essential to the advancement knowledge. Code that analyzes the information in exact logic without any duality of its interpretation of sentence. No chance to go out other than one-to-one correlation. Follow from accurate analysis, B, the exact logic of delineation. The function of code, because of the absence of humans' correct, accurate processing of information, with making a code, delineating, speaking by a code, it really necessitates the more organized analysis, the more accurate, objective analysis, having a self-evaluation by doing that. And with or without the human's existence for its absence of right computing, with or without, of which will it really exist forever on the learning? Because different units of learning has to communicate, and without the direct cable to connect to the other brain, brain to brain via cable, it really necessitates a code with either just speaking with a vibration of air molecules or the EM wave. So the code has to be made with or without your existence. So either be not you, a human, or any other existence. As long as you are a learner and you exist in the universe of possibilities of learning, you have to make a code. So, be that English, French, fucking bloody other fucking language, it's just a fucking ignorant example. So you have to make it yourself. And from that learning, you really have to. And for that process of making a code, you really understand how the knowledge is organized, dissected to analyze, and create new one. Create new one by creating new connections. And for that, you really realize that any and all informations are, by itself, constituted by smaller pieces as they make the structure of it. Because of its essence of logic, you follow that logic into the exact copy of that information analysis to the code, that the form of code has to be divided into its finer and smaller pieces and units for making as a basic elemental unit of information, and create a combination, an application by connecting between and among those. So, really the word compound is a combination of com as a prefix, meaning together, gather, to gather and gather. Pound is like a polymer. You superpose it. Superposed informations are gathered and together. And the word of combine is the bind and com, the linkage, the binding, bonding. That linkage is converged. So it really has to be made that you realize that, well, from English to even Korean, all of the fucking words, even French will have, especially in German, it really is blatantly, flagrantly expressed for what the exact essence of logic for making a code set really is, for example. So, even though I have learned from the simple English language from firefighter to all hundreds of thousands of words for its dissection and making a dictionary as to really facilitate its understanding by dissecting the words into constituents for prefix, stem, prefix, stem, suffix, stem, suffix, stem to stem. The definition of stem is just a core element that constitutes the information directly, and the definition of prefix and suffix is the generalized analyzation from pre, in, auf in German, to, come, con, in, a, yeah. Die, pro, pre, ex, un. A lot of interesting are existence, and English language has a superiority over German language in this term, although inferior all over other terms other than that. Is that it has a lot of prefixes and suffixes that make up the word. German doesn't exceed for 20 counts of its prefix, but English goes over 50, 70. Yeah, the diversity of that prefix makes a lot of easier organization of information because it precisely indicates the certain attribute of information by combining them. So, even from the realization of the word that, which was really my first glance realization that there is a compounded word. Being example, first example was firefighter at the age of 10, after which I found a lot of them that the words that are constituted by over 2 words, and on the prefix, but on the matter of suffix from ing, ed to ee, en, ous, ly, nes, making a grammatical form, and it really is the most efficient form to organize the grammatical form of any and all words in existence for under a code. It really is a brilliant one, and it will always be used for its eternal life. The suffix system of English is a brilliant one. That is a glamorous, but rather it was very easy to find the regularity because we do see, even in an earlier age of English education, we can see a lot of words having a suffix onto the word with ing having a presenting on root form, and ed for the past form, and ly for adverb, ive adjective, and ively adjective adverb compounded, ivenness adjective noun compounded form. It really is a brilliant one. And going ic, or or er, it is just bloody hell. I really love it, and it's a brilliant job for making such a constant and easy suffixes attached behind of every word that can easily change its grammatical form with ease. Instantaneous change can happen because of its simple structure. I bloody love it. It was very easy to find the regularities of suffixes, but it was rather hard, not until that I was able to see a lot of words that have a certain prefixes in common that can be cohortized under the same name of group. Words that have a in its head, in its first letter of word, a, pre, x. Con, com. Now I hate myself. Even though there are over 70 counts of prefix, cannot remember over 10, but the external stimulation is inflicted upon me. As a passive fucking brain, I can remember all of those, but not a proactive remembering. Well, there's a word with dies, on, co, im, sub, yeah. Its system is very efficient and will always be used. Be a stem, a generalized but direct to direct linkage to the real information, and a prefix be a more in average generic form of analysis, having a word's prefix as a pre, meaning preceding in the happened before the word, which was happened after the pre, and pro going forward, going direction forward, upward, and in, can it be either inside, going in, or making an adverse relation to the stem, adverse meaning, right opposite meaning. So, as there are a lot of words, but its relation, its generalized analysis for its structurized form be called as grammar. So the prefix acts like that on the direct relation to the words. Okay. And even though those logic for making prefix, stem, combination, compounded words are really important, and you have realized from learning the English language and even further in the German language, but with or without its learning, it has to be made. Well, so I really found exhaustively, exacerbatingly, effervescently, fervious, egregious, assiduously, for all the vicissitudes, trying to find all the words that have a certain prefix, and from all the dictionaries that I've been encountered for 60, 70 different dictionaries, but not thousands of pages, but 300, 400, 500 pages. For of those, I marked to divide a certain word that was listed for its constituent from prefix, stem, another compounded stem, and suffix, and the compounded suffixes, as it can be usually dividing section with my pen for 1 or 2 dividing, or even 3 to 4, even 5 dividing, even like the word compartment, all, eyes, 8, eon, really is a big, long word. For that, I could really understand the real structure, the genuine structure of how the code is made by its logic. For the formation of word, even though English is a borrowed language from Latin, French, German, like German, Greece, Italian, Spanish, and few other, really is a fucking language. And but there quite often can be seen a real regularity for making, even though the origination of stem really is egregious, having no logic, but its prefix and suffix system is a really brilliant job. A monkey that reads a word but cannot think about its genuine meaning to dissect by its origination really is a fucking ignorant one. A word for any information is perceived, and as soon as you observe, you percipient,ly, perspicaciously, preeminently perceive, and that perceptive observation you analyze by all of the relatable informations connected onto it, going down its scaling for its finer, smaller pieces of rudimental informations that make up the constitution. Really is a fucking one. And when there is a computer engineer, not only make a chip for its physical structure and also having a software, it really has to program by that exact logic that is really required to exactly analyze the data. And the area of machine learning, whatever called in artificial intelligence for whatever, for making the intelligence that can analyze in its spontaneity, its volition, voluntarily analyzing by its proactive computing, it has to be instructed for how to. And the computer engineer has no choice but to really understand what the essence of knowledge is and how to acquire voluntarily. Really is a logic computer. 이거 말고 뭔 설명이 필요하냐 이 씹새끼야. 뭘 처음에 씨발 졸라 많이. When the one is trying to prove, assert in a fucking dissertation on any paper having a specific object to delineate all its basis, reason as to support its structure for what it is about to assert for its validity, its logicality, it really can require just as much as 10 pages or even 20 pages, but Monkey fucking makes it for 200 pages, 400 pages, even to make a book for its simple one. No fascinating, fabulous, superficial, needless words are needed to, required to make up the thesis, really, which has no need to be proven with bloody count of words, but really is enough by having 10 count of pages that really incorporates only what are necessary to delineate, what are necessary for count of examples, but not bloody tens of 20s of examples, but it really is a needless dissipation, squandering of paper. Now, because the English language is a borrowed language, primarily from Latin, French, Greek, Spanish, Italian, it really at least incorporate 3 to 4 different languages, up to 7 different languages. Reason of why its total word count is surpassing most of other language, but its deficiency for its logic that it has a lot of synonyms. Synonym really has either identical or very similar words that can be regarded easily as identical as the other real identical ones. having 4 even 6 other combinations of alphabets to make up the word, but really says essentially one meaning. It really has no need to, but the English language has evolved for those different combinations of words, but what once had meant for exactly the same meaning to be diverted for slightly into the specific application of discipline, specific situation to apply to. Yes, but Well, well, of course it really has a need to, yeah. But it really has a really need to make the logical similarity for its alphabet combination because their analysis is almost exactly the same. That is not happening because those words are borrowed from Greek and French and Latin, having each of different, real different combinations of alphabet, really is just directly borrowed and directly used without any modification from its first introduction. So it is English has a bloody deficiency for its illogical relation between words. One more to say, no more to say.